Everybody, it's Fab Poli here, back to BizJet TV. Today we are talking to Michael Schratt from California, who's an aerospace engineer and mechanical drafter and researcher in the aerospace industry, who's going to be talking to us about some interesting things. He lectures at a lot of UFO conferences. This is a bit of a controversial subject for BizJet TV, but you'll understand as we get into the interview why I brought Michael on board to tell us about what he's been up to. Michael, over to you, and thank you for being here on the show.
Thank you, Fabrizio. Really appreciate it. Glad to be with you today.
Okay, so tell us a bit about how you got into this UFO research thing, and tell us about the fact that, you know, in your opinion, these UFO sightings that seem to be on the increase lately are actually not from another planet, but from, tell us where.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think it's good that we exhaust every terrestrial explanation before we perhaps jump on the alien bandwagon, you know, because what we're looking at here is a 400-piece puzzle, and we only have maybe 100 of the pieces. We only have the basic outline of this puzzle. Yeah. So we're still trying, after 70 years, we're still trying to piece together these inner components so that we can get a complete picture of what's going on here. Yeah. So what I've tried to do is fill in those pieces by looking at the military-industrial complex, specifically something called Aerospace Alley. Now that's all the way from San Diego, all the way up Pacific Coast Highway, into Burbank, into Hawthorne, continuing north on the 5, then onto the 14. Mm-hmm. That gets you into Palmdale, California. That's Lockheed, that's Air Force Plant 42. Then you've got Edwards Air Force Base, you've got Mojave, you've got Scale Composites. So that whole corridor is called Aerospace Alley, and that's really where the action happens.
Okay, so tell us a bit about some of the stuff that you've uncovered over the years that has then turned out to actually be true, and then we'll talk about what you see is coming for the future.
Sure. You know, I think it's important that we discuss Ben Rich. Okay. Ben Rich was the head of Skunk Works between 1975 and 1991. He took over the reins of the Skunk Works from Kelly Johnson in 1975, and this is the point where they started looking at low observable stealth aircraft, the Have Blue, which eventually turned into the F-117A stealth fighter. Now, prior to Ben Rich's death in 1995, he gave a number of lectures around the country. One took place at UCLA Alumni Club. This is 1993. I've got two separate eyewitnesses who were actually there at the lecture. And he dropped some bombshells, some really good bombshells. One of them is anything you can imagine the Skunk Works can do or has already done. Another one, just before he passed away in 1995, there was a telephone discussion between Ben Rich and my good friend Jim Goodall, who's another aircraft researcher. And Ben Rich told Jim Goodall over the phone, this is a direct quote, he said, "Jim, we have things in the Nevada desert that are 50 years beyond what you can comprehend. If you've seen it on Star Wars or Star Trek, we've been there, done that, or decided it wasn't worth the effort." Oh, wow. Coming directly from Ben Rich. Yeah. So if you think about the implications of what that means, and you extrapolate what Ben was referring to. So I got a little list here. I wrote down a little list of things. Now, if we're taking Ben Rich at his word, this would include the following technologies, right? Handheld laser guns, lightsabers, laser cannons, supersonic speed without creating a sonic boom, electromagnetic VTOL flight, tractor beams, defense or deflector shields, faster than light travel, aka make the jump to light speed, teleportation and suspended animation, biological cryogenic carbonite freezing. Okay. So, wow. Have we made the breakthrough? According to Ben Rich, we have made the breakthrough. He also said that we have things that are 20, 30, 40 years old that we have to keep quiet about. We're not sleeping. You know, they're continuing to do things at the Skunk Works. So it's clear at this point they have made the breakthrough. And
well, I mean, it's interesting you say this, Michael, because if we think of the Wright brothers' first flight, which was in 1903, and then supposedly, I use the word supposedly, in 1969 we landed on the moon for the first time, which is 66 years later. I mean, when I was in high school in the 1980s, and I wanted to be a professional pilot, an astronaut, I thought that when I was going to be in my early 40s, I would be traveling to Mars or maybe beyond. We haven't even been back to the moon yet. Now, I was in the Boeing Museum in Seattle a few years ago, and I actually I actually had a good look at the Apollo 11 capsule. And I thought to myself, now, we went in that thing 3 men travelled all the way to the moon and back in 1969, and now here I am with my iPhone in 2017 it was, and this is something this is far more advanced than the computer they had in the Apollo 11. So why is it we haven't been back to the moon? And I thought, well, we either saw something there that we weren't supposed to see, and so we haven't been back, or maybe we've been back but haven't said so, or there's something certainly going on behind the scenes that we're not being told of. Because I mean, everything has evolved. I mean, computers and that have really made major breakthroughs, and our lives because of the internet have really changed over the last 25 to 30 years. But we still haven't been back to the moon, and I've always had that question in my mind: why? But maybe with what you're saying to us today, those whys are being addressed.
Well, I'm going to think of it this way. In 1943, 1944, maybe into 1945 with the V2 rocket, why are we still using liquid rockets today? Ben Rich already stated that aerospace design has passed the brute force stage. So right there it tells you they've made the breakthrough.
So why are they keeping it secret? So why is it that they're keeping it secret? Why aren't we using that in everyday life?
Okay, because of 3 reasons. Now, certainly we'll talk about that a little bit today. What they call these technologies, when you have something like a Have Blue or you have an F-117A stealth fighter or a B-2, that's called a silver bullet technology. They also call it ace in the hole technology. It's also called trump card technology. And, as you discussed earlier, you were talking about the breakthroughs take place in the military, then they're trickled down to the private jets, and then they're trickled down to GA, right? Well, that's the same thing here. They're never going to let that technology trickle down to the common man. I mean, they have the technology now to make a 747 go supersonic without creating a sonic boom. They've already had the technology. Northrop made the breakthroughs on creating electromagnetic plasmas ahead of the aircraft, which essentially completely eliminates your sonic boom signature. They already made the breakthrough. This is 40, 50 years ago. They've done that. So why don't we see it today? Is because they have to control the high ground. They absolutely must control the high ground in a battlefield engagement.
Yeah.
So that's important that they do that. They cannot afford not to control the high ground. So it's important that they follow through on that.
That's all from me on this episode. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please subscribe and share this video. And that's all from Fab Poli at BizChat TV, and I'll see you on the next one.